Top stories. Figures shared with LBC News show it's cost more than £7.7 million to police the latest campaign by Just Stop Oil. The Metropolitan Police have revealed the amount of time spent ensuring safety during 13 weeks of action by climate change demonstrators. Assistant Commissioner Matt Twist has been speaking to LBC this morning.
The staggering total comes to 23,500 officer shifts in that 13-week period, all of whom could have been better spent helping local communities in London, solving crime, investigating crime and supporting victims.
Assistant Commissioner Matt Twist there, speaking to my colleague on LBC a little earlier. Well, the group did pause its road blocking campaign at the weekend, but climate activist James Harvey has warned the disruptive tactics could return. James joins me now. Morning to you.
Oh, good morning. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, good to get you on. And we'll get on to possible further action in just a moment, if we may. Just firstly, though, how do you respond to the sheer cost of policing the demonstrations that you and others took part in? You know, over £7.5 million. It's a huge figure. Would you like to apologise for it?
Well, no, actually. But look, anyone that gets disrupted, we're sorry about that. But the situation we're in, just look out the window, the world's on fire. But just to address those figures, the government is subsidising fossil fuel companies £236 million a week. So send the bill to Exxon, send the bill to BP, send the bill to Shell, send it to Sunak and the ministers that are opening new oil, gas and coal mines, and the lobbyists that derail COP every year. You know, the people that should be paying for this crisis are profiting from it instead.
Was it fair to take so many police away from other pressing duties, certainly in a big city like London?
Look, it's never a good thing to divert police attention. But what we were doing is a legal form of democratic protest. We were marching on the roads. The government have brought in new laws that criminalises that. So marching on the road is fine until the police decide it's causing disruption. Then they deem it illegal. Then they take us off. They could choose not to do that. It's up to them. It's terrible, any disruption that's caused. We don't like being out there, but we'll get off the roads as soon as the government makes a meaningful statement about stopping new oil, gas and coal.
I know it was disruptive because I got caught up twice on Westminster Bridge. Let me ask you then, James, and certainly for the benefit of our listeners, I'm sure they'd be interested. Tell us a little more then about your own story. Have you been arrested at all in any of these protests?
No, I'm fortunate enough not to have been arrested. I was down there all last week and I've been down several times in London over the last year, supporting the people out on the roads, doing shows like this to get the message out there. You know, it really upsets me to see so many young people of all generations being arrested for caring. You know, they're out on the streets, not because they want to be there. They're out on the streets because they can see what's happening in the world. They've joined the dots. They can see the wildfires raging through Greece at the moment, and they know it's because of climate change.
Well, this is what the Levelling Up Secretary, Michael Gove, James, had to say about your protest this morning. Let's just have a listen.
We will need oil and gas for years to come. A diminishing amount. We're going to have a transition away from it, but we will need it. And Just Stop Oil, and for that matter, actually, the Labour Party want us to deny ourselves the chance to use the oil and gas that we have in the North Sea. The only result of that would mean that we would be reliant on countries like Russia, or countries in the Gulf that are not reliable partners. And the Just Stop Oil policy, the Labour policy, is that we get rid of British jobs and we give them to Russian workers. And I think that is in no way either right economically or right environmentally.
Michael Gove then speaking this morning. James, how do you respond to what he said? And for you, is there a better way to care?
Yeah, to respond to Michael Gove, I think we're all getting rather bored with the lies that politicians come out with all the time. Yes, we will continue to need oil and gas for some years to come. But the great news is we have enough in existing reserves. We don't need to open up any new oil, gas or coal reserves. So we can have a just transition over to renewables, to insulating our homes, to more public transport. In fact, the future could be absolutely brilliant. You know, we could reduce this blanket of pollution that's surrounding us at the moment and live in a much healthier environment. We don't need new oil and gas. And that's what, it's not us saying this. This is what climate scientists in despair are shouting from the rooftops. Is what the UN are saying. It's what the government's own climate change committee is saying. But ministers are choosing to ignore. And it's getting to the point where, we've stated this last week. We're going to work with lawyers to prosecute these people because they're performing crimes against the rest of us by continuing to exploit fossil fuels.
Well, you have made the threat that there may be other ways, other tools of civil resistance you might yet deploy. Any sense of what you might do next?
Well, as you know, we've got a number of tactics in the book. Civil resistance is a long-standing in this country of making change. So you've seen the slow marching, you've seen the cultural actions. We'll continue to deploy these tactics as long as the government continues to pursue policies that are killing people, frankly. Not just in this country. We had 3,000 excess deaths last year due to the heat wave. That's stats. You can look that up. There were over 30,000 in Europe as a whole, and we've got millions of people dying in Africa because of climate-induced famine and drought. So we'll continue to deploy these tactics of civil resistance. Non-violent civil resistance is completely peaceful until we make change.
James, Harvey, appreciate your time this morning. Thank you very much indeed. Time now 8:48. Ministers say they're keeping the situation